Hi guys, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you find this content informative, please subscribe to the channel for more updates. There are nights in sports that become unforgettable because history is made, and then there are nights that become unforgettable because history gets completely overshadowed. What happened to CaitlinClark was somehow both. Heading into one of the most anticipated games of the season, all eyes were on Clark. Fans knew she was on the verge of reaching another major milestone, but nobody expected what happened next. By the middle of the game, Clark had officially become the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,000 career points and 500 career assists. Not faster than some players, faster than every player, faster than legends like Sue Bird, faster than Sabrina Ionescu. Faster than Hall of Fame icons who spent decades building their legacies. Normally, a record like that would dominate every headline in basketball. But within hours, almost nobody was talking about the record. Instead, social media exploded with arguments. Fans were furious. Analysts were divided. Questions started flying about officiating, controversial calls, coaching decisions, and a final sequence that left Fever supporters stunned. What should have been a celebration suddenly turned into one of the most debated games of the season. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Because the box score only tells part of what happened. Behind the historic milestone was a game filled with momentum swings, growing frustration, questionable decisions, and one performance from an opposing player that completely changed the outcome. By the time the final buzzer sounded, Clark had etched her name into the record books, yet Indiana was walking away with another painful loss. So how did one of the greatest individual achievements in recent WNBA history become the least talked about part of the night? The answer is far more complicated than most people realize, and once you see everything that unfolded, you'll understand why Fever fans are still talking about this game days later. Before we get into the controversy, the frustration, and everything that happened after halftime, we need to talk about the record itself. Because what CaitlinClark accomplished that night wasn't just impressive, it was something the WNBA had never seen before. Coming into the game, Clark needed just a few assists to reach another major career milestone. Most fans expected her to get there. What nobody expected was that she would make history in the process. Early in the game, Clark delivered a pinpoint pass in transition, finding her teammate for an easy basket. On the surface, it looked like a routine play. But that assist officially made her the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,000 career points and 500 career assists. Think about that for a second. Not faster than one legend, faster than all of them. Sue Bird needed significantly more games. Sabrina Ionescu took longer. Even Hall of Fame icon Dawn Staley, one of the greatest point guards the sport has ever produced, wasn't close to Clark's pace. While those players built incredible careers over many seasons, Clark reached the milestone in just 59 games. And that's what makes this achievement so remarkable. Scoring 1,000 points requires elite offensive talent. Reaching 500 assists requires elite vision and playmaking. Most players specialize in one or the other. Clark is doing both at an historic level at the exact same time. What's even more impressive is that she lost valuable playing time because of injuries and still managed to shatter the record. Many analysts believe that if she had played every game available to her, some of these milestones would have fallen even sooner. For a brief moment, the crowd witnessed pure basketball history. The record books had been rewritten and Clark's name was sitting at the very top. It should have been the headline everyone remembered. But by the end of the night, hardly anyone was talking about the record anymore. For the first half of the game, everything seemed to be unfolding exactly the way Indiana Fever fans had hoped. Despite facing a tough road environment, the Fever fought their way back after falling behind early. By halftime, the game was tied. The momentum had shifted. Clark had already secured her place in the history books, and Indiana looked ready to turn a historic night into an important victory. Then everything changed. As the second half began, the game became noticeably more physical. Every possession felt heavier. Every drive to the basket became a battle. Clark continued doing what makes her one of the most dangerous players in basketball, attacking defenders, creating opportunities, and forcing the defense into difficult situations. But with each possession, frustration started to grow. Several sequences left players, coaches, and fans debating whether contact that looked significant should have resulted in fouls. Clark could be seen reacting to certain no calls, while Fever supporters online immediately began questioning the consistency of the officiating. Social media lit up with clips, screenshots, and slow-motion replays as fans argued over what they believed they were seeing. Then came one of the game's biggest turning points. A technical foul assessed against Clark became a major talking point almost instantly. In a contest where every possession mattered, those points suddenly carried enormous weight. As the game tightened in the fourth quarter, many fans couldn't help but wonder whether that moment would ultimately prove decisive. And the pressure only continued to build. What had started as a celebration of a historic milestone was slowly turning into something else entirely. Every missed opportunity felt larger. Every whistle became more controversial. Every possession seemed to add another layer of tension. By the time the final minutes arrived, the conversation was no longer centered on Clark's record-breaking achievement. Instead, everyone was asking the same question. Had the game slipped away because of Indiana's mistakes, or had something much bigger changed the outcome? And while fans were busy debating that question, another player was quietly putting together the performance of her career. While most of the attention after the game focused on CaitlinClark, the referees, and Indiana's late-game struggles, there was another story unfolding on the court that deserves just as much attention. And that story belonged to Veronica Burton. Coming into the game, Burton wasn't the player dominating headlines. She wasn't the superstar drawing national attention. But by the final buzzer, she had become one of the biggest reasons Golden State walked away with the win. What makes Burton's performance even more impressive is the journey that brought her here. Just a few years ago, her future in the league looked uncertain. Despite being a high draft pick, she struggled to find consistent opportunities and eventually found herself fighting to prove she belonged at the highest level. Many players never recover from that kind of setback. Burton did. Instead of disappearing, she rebuilt her game, improved her confidence, and gradually transformed herself into one of the league's most reliable two-way guards. Against Indiana, all of that hard work was on full display. From the opening quarter, Burton seemed to be everywhere. She scored when Golden State needed points. She created opportunities for teammates. Most importantly, she made life difficult for Clark on multiple possessions. Every time Indiana looked ready to take control, Burton found a way to answer. Then came the sequence that changed everything. With the Fever attempting another comeback, Clark attacked the basket looking for a crucial score. Burton met her at the rim and delivered one of the biggest defensive plays of the night. The arena erupted. Golden State's momentum surged. Indiana's rally suddenly lost its energy. Whether fans agreed with every whistle or not, one thing was impossible to deny. Burton was making winning plays. And while the post-game debate focused on controversy, Burton quietly delivered the performance of her career, proving that Golden State's victory wasn't just about officiating or mistakes. It was also about a player who refused to let the spotlight belong to anyone else. But as impressive as Burton was, Fever fans weren't finished asking difficult questions yet. By the time the final buzzer sounded, many Fever fans weren't just talking about officiating anymore. They were talking about the decisions being made on the sideline. Because in a game decided by only a few possessions, every substitution, every rotation, and every timeout suddenly came under the microscope. And the more fans looked back at the game, the more questions they seemed to find. One decision stood out above all the others. Raven Johnson entered the game and immediately provided a spark. She knocked down shots, brought energy to both ends of the floor, and looked like one of Indiana's most effective players whenever she was on the court. Yet despite her impact, her minutes remained surprisingly limited for much of the night. As the offense struggled through stretches of the second half, fans couldn't help but wonder why one of the team's hottest players wasn't being featured more prominently. But that wasn't the only issue raising eyebrows. Throughout key moments of the game, Indiana's offense appeared disconnected. Possessions became rushed, spacing broke down, players seemed unsure of where their opportunities would come from. At times, Clark was orchestrating the offense. On other possessions, she found herself standing off the ball, watching the action unfold elsewhere. For a team with championship aspirations, the lack of consistency was difficult to ignore. Then came the final possession. Down by 2 points with the game hanging in the balance, Indiana had one last opportunity to force overtime or steal a dramatic victory. As the seconds ticked away, the offense became chaotic. Players scrambled for position. The play never seemed fully organized. And sitting on the sideline was a timeout that never got used. Some coaches prefer trusting their players in those situations. Others believe stopping the action and drawing up a play is essential. But when the final shot never materialized cleanly and the game slipped away, the criticism arrived immediately. Because in close games, every decision matters. And for many Fever fans, this wasn't just a tough loss. It was a missed opportunity that felt completely avoidable. The loss to Golden State was frustrating on its own. But for many Fever fans, the real concern wasn't what happened in that game. It was what that game revealed about a much bigger issue. Because when you step back and look at the season as a whole, a troubling pattern begins to emerge. The Indiana Fever aren't losing because they lack talent. They aren't being overwhelmed by superior rosters. In fact, on most nights they have enough firepower to compete with anyone in the league. So why do these losses keep happening? That's the question becoming harder to ignore. CaitlinClark continues to produce at an elite level. She is breaking records, generating offense, and attracting defensive attention unlike almost any player in the WNBA. Opposing teams build entire game plans around slowing her down. Yet despite her impact, Indiana continues finding itself in uncomfortable situations during the most important moments of games. Close contests become chaotic. Momentum swings go unanswered. Late-game execution breaks down. And opportunities that should result in victories somehow turn into losses. Championship teams don't just rely on talent, they rely on structure, they rely on discipline. Most importantly, they rely on consistency when pressure reaches its highest point. Right now, that consistency hasn't fully appeared in Indiana. The concern isn't that the Fever are a bad team, far from it. The concern is that they may be underperforming compared to what their talent level suggests they should be. Expectations entering the season were enormous. Many believed this roster had the pieces necessary to make a serious championship run. Some even viewed them as one of the league's most dangerous contenders. But contenders don't get judged by potential. They get judged by results. And that's where the questions begin. Every close loss creates more scrutiny. Every missed opportunity increases the pressure. Every game where Clark delivers an incredible performance without a win only intensifies the conversation. Because the longer these patterns continue, the harder it becomes to blame individual moments. Eventually, people start looking at the bigger picture. And that's exactly what's happening in Indiana right now. As if the losses, the officiating debates, and the coaching questions weren't enough, another storyline has quietly started gaining momentum around the Indiana Fever. And this one may be the most complicated of all. Over the past several weeks, fans have become increasingly focused on the emotions surrounding the team. Not just what happens during games, but how players and coaches react when things start going wrong. Every camera angle, every sideline conversation, and every visible reaction has been dissected online. When Clark shows frustration after a turnover, people talk about it. When she argues a call, clips spread across social media within minutes. When coaches make adjustments or appear animated on the bench, fans immediately begin creating theories about what's happening behind the scenes. Most of those theories remain exactly that: speculation. There is no confirmed evidence of major conflict inside the Fever organization. No verified reports suggesting relationships are broken. But in today's sports world, perception can quickly become part of the story. And right now, perception is creating plenty of discussion. Some fans believe the pressure surrounding Clark's stardom is affecting the entire organization. Others argue that every growing contender experiences moments of tension as expectations increase. After all, when a team is expected to compete for championships, patience becomes a luxury nobody seems to have. The spotlight only makes things more intense. Every Fever game now attracts national attention. Every mistake becomes a headline. Every loss becomes a debate. Few teams in the league face the level of scrutiny Indiana deals with on a nightly basis. That kind of pressure can either strengthen a team or expose weaknesses that were already there. And that's what makes the next stretch of the season so important. Because eventually, talent alone won't be enough to quiet the noise. The only thing that stops questions, rumors, and criticism is winning. Which brings us to the biggest question facing the Fever right now, a question that could ultimately define not only this season but the future of the franchise itself. At some point, every great athlete forces an organization to answer a difficult question. Are you building a championship team around their talent? Or are you simply watching history happen without fully taking advantage of it? That question is becoming impossible for the Indiana Fever to avoid. Because what CaitlinClark is doing at this stage of her career is extraordinary. The records, the scoring, the playmaking, the attention she brings to the league, very few players in basketball history have created this kind of impact so quickly. Every time she steps onto the court, she changes the game, opposing defenses adjust specifically for her, arenas sell out, television ratings climb, the spotlight follows wherever she goes. But individual greatness only takes a team so far. History is filled with legendary players who produced incredible numbers while their organizations struggled to build consistent winners around them. Some eventually found the right support system and captured championships. Others spent years carrying enormous expectations without ever reaching their full potential as a team. That's the crossroads Indiana appears to be approaching. The talent on this roster is real. There are quality players throughout the lineup. There are moments when the Fever look every bit like a championship contender, yet those flashes of brilliance haven't consistently translated into results when the pressure is highest. And that's what makes recent losses so frustrating. Because fans aren't watching a rebuilding team anymore. They're watching a team that believes it can compete for titles. Every missed opportunity feels bigger. Every questionable decision receives more scrutiny. Every close loss raises the same uncomfortable question. If the Fever can't consistently win with a player performing at this level, what exactly is holding them back? The truth is, nobody has a complete answer yet. But one thing is becoming increasingly clear. CaitlinClark is building a historic career right before our eyes. The challenge for Indiana now isn't finding a superstar. It's making sure they don't waste one. So what are we supposed to take away from this game? Was it a celebration? Or was it a warning? The answer may be both. On one hand, May 28th will forever belong in the WNBA record books. CaitlinClark accomplished something no player before her had ever achieved at this pace. She became the fastest player in league history to reach 1,000 career points and 500 career assists, surpassing some of the biggest names the sport has ever seen. No controversy can take that away. No officiating debate can erase it. No heartbreaking loss can change the fact that history was made. But that's only one side of the story. The other side is far more complicated. A game that should have ended with celebration instead ended with frustration. Fans questioned officiating, analysts debated key moments, coaching decisions came under intense scrutiny, a breakout performance from Veronica Burton changed the course of the game, and when Indiana needed its cleanest execution of the night, the final possession fell apart. That's why this loss feels different. It wasn't simply another mark in the loss column. It exposed concerns that have been quietly building all season. Can the Fever execute under pressure? Can they consistently close out tight games? Can they turn individual brilliance into team success? Most importantly, can they build a championship-caliber system around one of the most talented players the league has ever seen? Those questions won't be answered in a single game. They'll be answered over the months ahead. But that's what makes this moment so important. Years from now, fans may remember this night as the evening CaitlinClark shattered another historic record. Or they may look back and see it as the night the warning signs became impossible to ignore. The record is already written into history. What happens next will determine whether it becomes the foundation of a championship story or the beginning of a much bigger conversation.
If you made it this far, you already know this story is far from over. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this changes everything, or are people overreacting? Hit the like button if you enjoyed this breakdown. It really helps push videos like this out to more viewers. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next update, because things are moving fast and there's a lot more coming. I want to hear your take. Does this shift the balance, or will defenses find another way to respond? Share this video with someone who needs to see this, especially if they've been following this story closely. Turn on notifications so you're always the first to know when new content drops. If you've got a different perspective, drop it below. I read a lot of the comments and the discussions here are always interesting. Let me know what you think happens next, because this could go in a lot of directions. And if you enjoy content that breaks things down in a simple, engaging way, stick around. There's plenty more on the way. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.